everybody, I have personally lost track of the amount of times that I've been looking through the classifieds and find myself staring at an Alfa Romeo 159 and thinking, oh, that's absolutely stunning. I quite fancy one of those. And I guarantee every single person who is watching this right now has thought the same. And even those who are about to hop into the comment section saying, no, God, I'd never buy an Alfa, they're absolutely trash. I put it to you that the only reason that you're saying that is because it's your brain's way of protecting itself from potential financial ruin. It's not that Alfas are all rubbish, it's that you're too scared to buy one. Today we are driving perhaps the most desirable of all 159s, the TBI Sportwagon. No, of course it doesn't have a Busso V6, it doesn't have the GM V6. It has only a 1.75 litre turbocharged petrol engine. So why is it that this is the most desirable model? Well, grab yourself a hot wet, sit back and relax, because I'm going to tell you. And together we're going to try and decide whether I should buy a 159 and whether you should buy one too. Come on, let's get into it. My name's Ben. Welcome to Dad Cars. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Now, as this is the Dad Cars channel, first off, we're going to have a look at the practicality of the 159, because as subscribers know, I'm currently doing a £3,000 family car.
I'm going to tennis.
You're going to tennis?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you're going to tennis in a princess dress. As subscribers know, I'm currently doing a £3,000 family estate challenge to prove that you can buy a perfectly good family car for £3,000 today. No, you can't buy a TBI for £3,000, but I'll tell you how much this car was later in the video. Right, Pickles, do you want to have a look at the rear seats? Because lots of people say that Alfas of this era are quite tight in the back, so we're going to find out once and for all, yeah?
It's Alfa Romeo. There.
It's an Alfa Romeo, it is, isn't it? We like Alfa Romeos, don't we? So the driver's seat is adjusted for my little legs. I'm 5'11", but I've got a long torso. And I can comfortably sit behind myself here, but my head does touch the roofline. But if I slump down a little bit, yeah, look, I've got perfectly adequate space here. And the owner of this car, James, he is 6'1", and I got him to test earlier on, and he can sit behind himself without his knees touching the seat. You've got a sweetie wrapper bin down there, look. And the backs of these seats are all leather as well, which is lovely and nice and easy to clean. So in the back of 159s, you get 2 sets of Isofix. There are also tether points in the boot. Although it's worth noting, it did take me a little bit longer than normal to actually connect this Isofix seat in. It was a little bit fiddly. But all in all, this is a lovely place to be, isn't it? Look, got leather on your door card there, sweetie. I would say for adults, it is a little bit cramped. But for children, teenagers, I think they'll be absolutely fine. But what about the boot? Because, I mean, these aren't particularly big cars. In fact, today in 2025, these look tiny. So let's have a look at the boot now. Now, there's no button to release it. You've got to press the button on your key. What do you reckon?
It's giant.
It's not a bad size, is it? See, I would say that it is deeper, obviously, than a hatchback's boot. That's a perfectly usable size. You want to get in? There we go. All right. This is certainly deeper than your average crossover, but as you know, on this channel, we say no to crossovers and highly recommend an estate instead. You can also manually turn off the passenger side airbag. That's the same switch as you would find in Maseratis and I think some Ferraris as well. But yeah, there's no Isofix on the front seat. So while obviously maybe if you're comparing it to a massive Volvo estate, it certainly is a lot smaller. But for me, this would offer all the practicality that I would want as a dad from an estate. But more importantly, the person who's holding the camera is my wife, and we're looking to buy potentially a 159 at the moment. What would you say? What did you say when you first saw this car?
I really liked it. I like how it looks. There's enough space for the children if you had the multi-max, so I feel like it could work.
You loved your Mark IV Golf, didn't you?
Yeah, Golf's the best car I've ever had.
Yeah, so you'd be happy if we got a 159. Well, it gets the thumbs up from the wife, so now we need to take this out and actually see if it's any fun to drive, and also I'm going to tell you what the running cost would be on this and what to look out for if you're thinking of buying a 159. All right, sweetie, shall we go for a drive? Yeah? Shall we hear what it sounds like? Yeah. Don't get your hopes up, okay? This isn't a V6. But let's see what the startup is like.
It's not loud.
No, it's not. It's not loud, is it? I think the last Alfa Romeo that you were in, Pickle, was the Giulia Quadrifoglio. Alfa
Was
Romeo.
it the one with fidgets in?
No, that was the Tonale, which you loved, but
Yeah.
I hated the car itself. This seems to be sitting a little bit lower than standard, so my guess is this is on modified springs, and it's also making it rather bumpy, isn't it? We'll see how that fares later on in the drive, but yeah, it sounds like I've got 4 children in the car and they're all playing with an inflated balloon. That could get annoying. Right, sweetie, national speed limit, yeah? Second gear, 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah, you can feel that turbo coming in there. A bit of torque steer from the front wheels as well. God, this has got some pace, isn't it? Oh, cyclist, we're gonna have to safely go around him with a bit of pace, aren't we? Oh, yeah. God, you can really feel it when that turbo kicks in. This is anything but a slow car. So we actually just do a quick rolling 0 to 60, shall we, sweetie? Right, look, pull into here. Right, are you ready?
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh! Yeah, you can feel those front wheels fighting you.
Is this a 4-wheel drive or a 2-wheel drive?
That is an excellent question that you've genuinely just come out with by yourself. This is a front wheel drive car, so it's 2-wheel drive and it's the front wheels. But you can also get the 159s in 4-wheel drive as well.
Okay.
And interestingly, that brings us on to one of the criticisms of the 159. People have always complained of this era of Alfa Romeo for being far too heavy. And it's true, if you got a 4-wheel drive V6 159, I think they weigh over 1.8 tons. And remember, this isn't a particularly large vehicle either. However, the justifiable reason for the increased weight is that these generation of Alfa Romeos also had a significant increase in safety. The previous generation cars, 147, 156, they didn't achieve very good NCAP safety rating. And to be fair to them though, there was loads of amazing cars that I love, that around the early noughties, that's when NCAP came in and became like a really significant selling factor for cars. But these cars got 5 stars for adult occupants and 4 stars for child occupants. But I always take it with a pinch of salt. Any old NCAP test, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. Because also they were testing, the crash test dummies, the children ones, in old dated child seats. So nowadays what you can do is you can buy a brand new modern one, much like that one I've got in the back there. But everybody moans about the weight gain being the fact that the platform that this is built on was actually a platform that was supposed to be a Saab platform. But Saab never used it, and it was only Alfa Romeo in the end that did use it. But that confirms my theory as well about the weight gain being safety related, because we all know about the legendary Saab safety. But one of the big reasons why the TBI is widely considered to be the model to go for is that these are significantly lighter as well. These are under 1,500 kilograms, so they're at least 100 kilograms lighter than if you had a V6. 100 kilograms, I mean, that's the difference between you having your wife and 2 children in the back of the car, or if it's just you in the car. And anybody who's like me and enjoys driving performance cars, you know the difference when you drop off the family and then you're driving home on your own on your favourite B road. And the weight saving is all down to this rather special engine. So it's a 1.75 litre turbocharged 4-pot petrol, which is the same engine as you would find in the mighty and gorgeous Alfa Romeo 4C, albeit slightly down-tuned. So from standard, these produce around 200 horsepower and around 320 Newton meters of torque, but with a little remap tickle, you can take these cars easily up to 240 horsepower and close to 400 Newton meters of torque, which then brings it up in line with the 4C engine. And this particular example that I'm driving today has had that stage 1 remap. So this should be producing around 240 horsepower and around 380 Newton meters of torque. And I tell you what, you can feel it. You can definitely feel it.
We have to do the turning around thing.
What, turning the road to see what the turning circle's like? Yeah, we'll make sure we do that at some point as well, yeah? And that small but mighty engine is paired with a 6-speed manual gearbox here, which is something that you do not get with the beautiful 4C. And despite this weighing 50% more than the 4C, I tell you, with this map, it's got plenty of shove. Now, it would be automotive malpractice to review an Alfa Romeo without talking about the looks. And God, this car is absolutely stunning. I can remember when these first came out, and I've always thought that these are super stunning. And even now, more than 15 years later, dare I say it, maybe today they look even better, because you know, this is a small car. It's a lovely, easy thing to place on the road. It'll be very easy to park and live with as well. And this car looks even better because it is wearing teledial wheels. Now, these did not come with the TBI. These wheels are off of a Brera. National speed limit, you ready? And I'm not ashamed to admit, the looks of a car are massively important to me. It's probably why I always end up being drawn to and buying two-door coupe style cars. It's important to me that a car looks gorgeous. It's important when you do park it up at the supermarket, you turn around and look at it parked in parent and child parking, and it gives you a smile. And even though this particular example is in perhaps the most subtle of colour schemes, you know, silver with an all black interior, you can tell a car is absolutely stunning when it's desirable and you still want it, even though it's not in a particularly flamboyant spec. And the interior on these cars is utterly delightful. This steering wheel is near perfection. Nice hard wrapped leather, a lovely size for you to stare through and look at those delightful analog dials. And yes, although they are sandwiching what looks like a mobile phone screen from the 90s, give me analog dials over a digital dash any day of the week. You've then also got this brushed aluminium angled towards you, making you feel like this is a driver orientated car. This is an enthusiast place to be. The seats are absolutely sublime with the embroidered Alfa Romeo badge. If anybody tries to tell me that the interior on the 159 is looking dated now, I tell you that that person has got no taste. The steering feel is wonderfully weighted, authentically weighted. And as I was hoping, being an Alfa Romeo, it's nice, fast, and quick and nimble steering as well. Oh, this is absolutely sublime. The last manual Alfa Romeo that we reviewed on the channel was the mighty 147 GTA. And one of my observations was that, you know, the clutch and the gearbox, it wasn't the most intuitive system to use. It was fine. After driving it for about half an hour, I started to gel with it. But this straight away, the clutch, lovely weight to it, very intuitive bite point. The gearbox, again, nice weight, satisfying gear change. Honestly, this is better than I was expecting. You definitely forget that this is a Sportwagon. Feels much more like a hot hatch. The ride in this, with its what I suspect is aftermarket springs, it is too firm for what I would want this family estate to be. And at low speeds, as I mentioned, it's quite creaky and it's quite annoying. But when you get up to speed on a nice bit of tarmac, it's actually not that bad at all. I imagine that if you've got the standard setup and it is in a good state of repair, imagine the ride on these is wonderful. Right, so it's all sounding rosy and wonderful, but we haven't started talking about the running costs yet, have we? And the running costs is what puts people off of buying Alfa Romeos, isn't it? So the real world miles per gallon in a TBI Sportwagon, around town, low 20s. On a run, low 30s. And if you really wanted to try and hypermile it, I reckon you could get into the high 30s in one of these. Road tax at time of recording is around £385 a year. Insurance for the owner of this car, who's in his early 30s, he pays just over 300 quid. A typical service that you will need to take this car to an Alfa specialist. Typical service probably around £200. But it's not the typical service that you're scared of. It's not the typical day-to-day running costs. It's the the potential reliability issues, isn't it, that come along with Alfa Romeos. And they made these in large numbers. I think they made about 250,000 159s globally across all the different models. And some of the less desirable models for a very long time now have been very, very cheap. You could probably today go and buy at the bottom of the market, you could probably get a 159 for under £1,000. And as with any car that's been cheap for a long amount of time, they've been bought by people who think, look, I've just spent £2,000 on that. And then when they get, a bill come up for 500 quid, look, really, you should sort this and this out, a bit of preventative maintenance. They're like, well, it's not worth it. That's like a quarter of the price I paid for the car. Is it going to fail its MOT? No, I'm just happy just to keep driving it. Look, I see most Alfa Romeos, certainly 159s, I see them as enthusiast cars, and they should be run and maintained accordingly. You should take some care, take some pride in looking after them. So when you go to look to buy one, you want to see stacks and stacks of history. This car's owner bought this around 6 months ago, and it has got a lovely big wedge of history and invoices, which I was having a little look at earlier on. That's what you want to see when you buy a car like this. So how much did James pay for this car here? Well, like I said at the start, the TBIs are considered now to be probably the most desirable one to go for. So even a ropey TBI, if you can find one, I mean, they're extremely rare. You're not going to pick up one of these for £3,000. My budget for the family car estate that I'm looking to buy, not getting a TBI. He paid £9,000 for this car. I mean, this sits on just 77,000 miles. As I say, it's got the stacks of history there, and it's in wonderful condition. And when James took this for a post-purchase inspection with his chosen Alfa specialist, they got it up on a ramp. He was very relieved to find that it's in wonderful condition underneath. Because much like Maseratis from the noughties, Alfa Romeos are kind of a bit like sandcastles. Absolutely beautiful, wonderful things, but if you don't stay on top of it, it's only a matter of time before nature reclaims it to the land. Front subframes in particular. And I think it's even worse with 159s than it is with the Maseratis, because these cars were designed to be dailies and they were used as dailies, whereas a lot of Maseratis spend most of their time sort of sat in a garage or on a driveway. But even weekend Maseratis can have very crusty front subframes. So it is so essential to, obviously, after you've ran your car vertical check on your potential 159 purchase and use the promo code DADCARS to save 20% off, I would recommend that you also do a pre-purchase inspection, particularly if you're going to be parting with a lot of money. Right, sweetie, should we do the turning circle test? Yeah? So this is quite a little car, and let's see if it can do this in one. No, it can't. That turning circle is actually a bit disappointing, I would say. I love feeling a bit of steering weight at low speeds in a car. That is something that is so lost in modern cars. You can steer at low speeds with one finger, but with this, you definitely need to grab it by the scruff of the neck, which I just love. Sweetie, what do you reckon? Do you reckon we should buy one of these?
No.
No?
It wouldn't be good to have 4 children with.
It wouldn't be good. Okay, well, I do think, Mummy mentioned it earlier on, I do think you could get a 4-cross Multimac in the back, one of their more compact ones. But if I buy one of these, I'll probably put a 3-across in the back and then have one of your children on the front seat here, because we've got other cars that we can use when we've got all of us together as a family. What do you think we should buy?
Panda car.
What, you want a Fiat Panda?
Yeah.
It's because Pandas are your favourite, aren't they? If anybody has got an interesting Fiat Panda that they would like to see on the channel, you would love to do a Fiat Panda with me, wouldn't you? But what if, like me, you don't have £9,000 to buy a dream 159? Well, there's a range of engine options, petrols, diesels, and the many wonderful Alfa specialists out there have figured out lots of ways to actually maintain, look after these cars even better than what was the original manufacturer's recommendations. Things like if you're considering to buy a diesel, and then when you're looking through the paperwork, you can see that the swell flap and DPF have been attended to. If you see an invoice for those things, apparently then they're a very reliable engine. James tells me as well that the original Alfa tracking recommendation calibration for these cars will result in it eating front tyres. There is a bit of an Alfa Romeo tax on parts though, isn't there? Which is a bit annoying. Like RS tax on Audis, which, okay, it's annoying, but yeah, it's an RS part, isn't it? But just generally, with Alfa Romeo parts, they seem to pop a bit of a premium on them, which is a bit frustrating. So before I give you my summary on the 159 TBI, I need to say a massive thank you to this car's owner, James. Thank you ever so much for bringing this down to me today. James tells me growing up, his dad had multiple Alfa Romeos, and he's got so many fond memories of him growing up, sat on the passenger side or sat in the back of an Alfa Romeo. I think he said that it had a 156 at one point. And I think that just goes to prove what I'm always talking about on this channel. It does make a difference what car you have as your dad car, what car you are using to make memories with your children. So shout out to James's dad as well for being a cool dad. And so in summary then, for the Alfa Romeo 159 TBI, we often talk about heads versus heart when it comes to, you know, buying a car, don't we? And I think that the Alfa Romeo Sportwagon might be probably the finest example of buying with your heart when it comes to buying a practical estate car. I should definitely, for my next car purchase, buy a Volvo V70. It will do absolutely everything that I want as a backup family car, as like a, you know, a third car in our family fleet. But the reaction from my wife when I pulled onto the drive in this morning kind of says it all, really. She had a massive smile on her face and she said, "Oh God, that is beautiful. I'd be very happy to drive that around. It doesn't look much bigger than my old Golf." I was rather proud of her. She didn't start moaning about this being sort of dated looking. She loved it. And I'm sure that if instead I turned up in a D5 Volvo V70, I don't think it would have had the same response. I think that she would have been a bit like, "Oh, well, it just looks like a granddad car." I love a V70, by the way. Love it. It's amazing. It's the car that I should buy. But having driven this now, oh, it's made me want a 159 even more. I guess my only problem is, can I get a 159 which isn't about to immediately disintegrate for £3,000? And having been completely spoilt today, first time driving a 159, it being the most desirable, their TBI, will I be disappointed with one of the less desirable engine options? Only time will tell, because I will be buying a family estate for £3,000 very soon. And if you'd like to see what estate I end up with, make sure you click that subscribe button, please. And to anybody who's watching this because it is specifically the TBI that has caught their eye, they're thinking about pulling the trigger on one, but they're wondering, are these worth the premium? Are these worth £9,000? Well, I can't say if this is worth the premium over a less desirable, less valuable Model 159 because I've not driven any others, but is this worth £9,000? Absolutely, 100%. This is a legendary enthusiast dad car. This has got all of the charm, the flair, the connection that an enthusiast want, but it's just modern enough to have the safety that you can use today in 2025 and beyond with modern Isofix child seats in the back. You can use this car with your family to make memories, use it as a daily, picking them up from school, doing the club runs, and you haven't got that nagging feeling in the back of your head that, you know, you've bought a 90s Alfa Romeo that you know the safety on it is very, very questionable. Honestly, if you're thinking of buying a TBI, take it from me, this car is exceptional. Don't forget to like this video and comment below. And if anybody watching has a 159 that they are thinking of selling, and it's a good one, that the engine's not about to just drop through the crusty front subframe, if it's one that I could just start using and dailying, and you think I could buy it for £3,000, please reach out to me because I'd love to buy one of these. And in the meantime, check out these videos here. If you want to see an Alfa Romeo Giulio Quadra Folio dad car review, check it out here, and the 147 GTA over here. See you on the next one. Bye bye, guys.